This home has become a hotbed for crime, leaving neighbors frustrated after yet another shooting.
Today I called the police to see if it was safe enough for my grandkids to come out and go to school.
Plus a parking lot confrontation.
But I just knew that something has to be done with things like this.
Residents taking action against alleged shoplifters.
And dishing up delicious food with a purpose.
To be able to reach people so that they maybe understand the significance of what a simple piece of fry bread means.
How a Billings woman is remembering her loved ones one meal at a time.
The MTN 530 News starts right now.
From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 530 News.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger.
And I'm Andrea. Lutz. A 34-year-old Billings man remains in critical condition tonight after showing up at a Billings hospital with a gunshot wound.
That shooting taking place in the 300 block of South 28th Street, the same location where a 5-hour standoff happened in November, following the death of a Billings man and his infant son.
MTN's Marcus Kakova spoke with residents in the area and also spent the day investigating the property's troubling past.
I'm here on South 28th Street in what many refer to as the south side of town, where police are investigating a shooting that took place in the residence behind me. Something that residents say is all too familiar for this part of town. Like one woman who didn't want to show her face out of fear of being seen as what she described as a cop caller.
Never travel at night in the alleyways, not on the south side. You will get mugged, stabbed, or raped.
Her neighbors are at the center of police activity again. A 34-year-old man was in critical condition Wednesday with multiple gunshot wounds allegedly suffered at this house in the 300 block of 28th Street. Any hesitation with coming down here today? I know you're picking up your bike.
It kind of was, I was just like, oh my God. This part of town is always bad anyway. It's just what it is.
A suspect has not yet been identified, and the investigation is ongoing, according to police.
Today I called the police to see if it was safe enough for my grandkids to come out and go to school.
Back in November, arrests were made at the same residence after a 1-year-old and a 31-year-old were killed at a North Side home.
I do have 2 small children, and they kind of developed a defense mechanism to where when they hear those gunshots, it's common around here. They will get down on the floor and they'll start crawling.
We spoke to the house's owner, Gary Wheats, who owns multiple rentals across the county. He says he only learned about the crimes from news reports.
I don't know anything other than what I heard in the news. There have been tenants in there that from time to time, I think, were involved in some kind of criminal activity.
There were 7 code violations listed at the 28th Street house in 2023 and 37 in total since 2010, but all were rectified after calls to Wheats, according to Billings Code Enforcement, which said in a statement, "We've had cases on this property in the past and very recently for open storage and junk vehicles. The owner has always brought the property into compliance with us after being sent a notice. Now residents are looking for local leaders to take action."
Condemn those houses, evict the people, and just tear them down. That would be a good thing.
Marcus Kakova, MTN News.
A man's now facing charges in the death of a 64-year-old Sheridan woman found beaten to death inside her home. The woman's body was found Sunday on Gladstone Avenue. Police say she died of blunt force trauma. Sheridan Police Captain Tom Ringley says the suspect is 22-year-old Israel Melvin and is now charged with second-degree murder. Melvin's been in jail since Sunday after being arrested for a controlled substance. Ringley says police don't have a motive for the murder.
Stockman Bank weather cam for this evening shows a fairly quiet scene for now. The winds have been kicking up from time to time. Stronger gusts up over 30 miles per hour, but the temperatures look pretty typical for this time of the year. 35 for the warmest reading, 13 for the coldest so far. Actually, this is already out of date, but this didn't happen really the typical way. 35 before the sun came up. The temperatures continued to drop. In fact, now we're down to 12 degrees in Billings. We're 23 degrees colder in Billings right now than we were at the same time yesterday. You can see 36 degrees colder along the High Line, and that colder air is continuing to surge in. A lot of forecast details to talk about, some snow, but mainly about cold. We'll have that coming up in just a few minutes.
Shoplifting continues to be a big problem for Billings retailers, numbers rising steadily over the last several years as the price for goods also rises. Well, take a look. Billings police investigated 1,147 incidents in 2023, up from 1,066 reports in 2022. That's nearly an 8% increase. Tonight, we hear from a Billings woman who saw it happen in front of her eyes at a Billings Albertsons. And as our Charlie Kleps explains, she says she felt so frustrated, she took action.
It was in this Albertsons parking lot where Amy Burrows was met face to face with a couple of shoplifters. But instead of ignoring the problem as she's done before, she got involved, taking pictures of them in action.
I was walking in to get some groceries.
When Amy Burrows arrived at Albertsons Tuesday night, a routine trip to the store quickly turned into a situation she can't stop thinking about.
As I was walking in, they almost ran into me with their cart.
That was the moment she ran face first into this couple, whom she believes was stealing several carts full of groceries. She says the wheels on their cart jammed and none of the items were bagged.
They didn't even take stuff that they need. They took stuff that they want. Valentine chocolate. Armor All for their car, Pepsi. They didn't have milk and bread and that kind of stuff.
And unfortunately, retail theft is becoming a big problem, not just here, but across the country. According to the National Retail Federation, 83% of retailers now say retail theft is a major problem.
We see it at least once a week. It's really disrespectful.
Tim and Megan Harris own Second Chance Marketplace on Grand Avenue. The couple says they can't even keep track of how often they are stolen from.
I assume it's daily. We just don't have time to monitor the cameras.
Their store caters to people seeking secondhand items with a focus on keeping items affordable. And their unique business model is a part of what makes this so frustrating.
If it's affordable, then you can buy food and you can buy stuff for your family.
That's really sad. People running out with cartfuls of stuff, people grabbing stuff and running. Our prices are low and we work with people.
As for the thefts at Albertsons, the store is looking into it, but there is little employees can do. An Albertsons spokesperson says, quote, "Our policies strongly discourage associates from confronting anyone suspected of shoplifting, and only associates who have undergone de-escalation training should intervene."
Why should you get groceries for free when the rest of us have to pay for them?
Frustrating for not only retail stores, but also shoppers who worry the problem will only continue to grow.
Something has to be done with them, or it's just going to get worse.
In Billings, Charlie Kleps, MTN News.
Although we don't know the motive behind this incident, the nationwide spike in shoplifting comes at a time when food insecurity is a huge problem in America, with 44 million people not knowing where their next meal is coming from. The U.S. Department of Agriculture says poverty, low wages, and unemployment can all lead to food insecurity. Families of four making less than $30,000 a year are considered low income and may experience food insecurity. That's about 1 in 25 households nationwide. Officials say food insecurity is economic in nature, with paying for rent and food top financial concerns for households.
A Montana District Court judge has struck down a new state law that would have dramatically increased the licensing fees for marijuana industries. The House bill stated a dispensary would have had to pay $5,000 to renew a license on its first shop, and then an additional $5,000 for each additional location. Previously, dispensaries just had to pay a flat $5,000 renewal fee for each location, which they are required to do on an annual basis. After the bill was signed, 3 marijuana businesses sued the state, arguing the law was unconstitutional, and the judge has now agreed. That law was slated to go into effect on January 1st, but with this ruling, the state returns to the flat $5,000 renewal fee on each shop.
Tonight, we're stepping inside a Billings classroom where students are learning about and celebrating Indigenous culture in a pretty sweet way.
Our Haley Monaco explains in this Positively Montana story.
Positively Montana is sponsored by Yellowstone Valley Electric Cooperative.
Would you have it again?
Yes.
Yes. For a group of 6th graders at Riverside Middle School, Tuesday morning was especially sweet.
We've been focusing on the indigenous cultures.
Or savory.
Obviously, everything is centered around fry bread.
English teacher Caitlin Greenwood wanted to bring in a special treat to make learning more fun for her enriched classes.
So I wanted to make it more personal to my students.
Greenwood knew exactly who to call.
I was kind of honored, and I said, well, sure, of course.
To create a legacy for people to understand and appreciate their Sioux heritage, Linda Gilchrist opened Mama Jones Fry Bread, an Indian taco food truck.
The name Mama Jones is actually after my mom. She passed away in 2015, and the fry bread was something that she always made for us as kids because there was 8 of us.
Gilchrist started the food truck in the summer of 2023 as a way to stay busy.
I had recently lost a little brother, and I think it was part of that process of pouring myself into something in order to honor my mother and my brother at the same time.
Gilchrist eventually understood what her mother once went through.
And I remember being a little girl, and she would be frying and putting it in paper bags, and we would eat it as fast as she would fry it.
When she first opened up, she would roll out each piece of fry bread by hand. Not able to keep up with demand, she changed course.
Actually, I didn't think that it would be as popular as it was. It has taken off, which we're very thankful for.
Indian tacos and fry bread, made with the special ingredient of love, and a family carrying on a special name.
And even though people didn't know her, they would know her by this little pink truck.
In Billings, Haley Monaco, MTN News.
Still to come on the MTN 530 News on Q2, a historical tour will take you inside a Helena mansion that the governor will soon call home.
And in sports, wrestling towards history. A West High wrestler looks to pin his way onto a prestigious list. We'll meet our athlete of the week.